Okay. It was awesome to have a little kid come up here and perform as one of the high school students who I work with. And it's amazing to me to work with all these high school kids who are starting to really dig into themselves and write and find these creative outlets to deal with the things they had in their life. I had no such thing in high school at all. My high school experience was very different from a lot of people's I found. And it was because I grew up, just outside of a city in a small town that was as white can be. And there was nothing diverse. There was no art. There was no nothing, and there was a lot of things that happened there that weren't pleasant all the time, and I had to leave. But I'd taken 12 years to write this piece. It's literally taken me 12 years. I tried so many times and I could never do it right, and I finally got to a place where I feel it's justified now for me to be able to perform it. So that's what I'm going to do now. And it has to do a lot with my sort of high school experience and how I ended up kind of being where I am.
Tell the truth.
And it's about this guy I used to know. His name was Jason Lyness. Jason Lyness had more charisma and charm than anybody I had ever met. Confident and assured, while I was scared and hid on the fringes, afraid of everything, especially myself. We were the same age, but he was eons older. And it seemed like all the girls wanted to fuck him, and many did. And they may have made me envious, but mostly I just felt pride to be close to him. He used to take me to run down neighborhoods in a borrowed car when all I could scrape up was $10 for a dime bag of dirt weed. And he taught me how to roll blunts like they were going to grace the covers of High Times magazine. I witnessed him getting into dozens of fights, and the swiftness and certainty of his violence was utterly captivating to me. So yeah, he was the type of kid that made your parents worry. He was the type of kid that all the cops in town knew by name at the age of 13. For some reason, he liked me, this scrawny, quivering, tantrum-prone warrior. And we were friends. Now, the summer before my senior year of high school, and I say mine because Lyness had been kicked out long before that, he used to come to my house at 7:45 a.m. He must have been sitting in the park across the street in the pavilion, still awake from a bender of cocaine, acid, and whiskey, waiting for my mother to leave for work before he'd saunter across the street and knock on the door. He said it was because he loved to see my hair first thing in the morning, which, believe it or not, when I was 17 years old, was this like nappy, wiry mane of afro. I know it's really hard to believe now, but it really was. But I also knew the reason he was over that early was because he had nowhere else to go. By 10 a.m. most mornings, we were scraping up loose change and other downtrodden souls to contribute to our day's activities. A case of old Milwaukee long necks, 2 dime bags, 2 blunts, and we would sit in that park across the street, playing basketball and doing our best to keep sobriety at bay during the daylight hours and suffocating at night, only to wake up the next day and start all over again. November 11th, 1996 was Veterans Day. We didn't have school. So Lyness showed up early in the morning like he always did, but we sat in silence. He owed me $50. And I wasn't confident enough, didn't have the authority in my voice to be able to express my anger, so it just sort of settled in this thick quiet between us. It's the type of silence where both parties know that something needs to be said, but neither will break the surface, and so the riptide mental string just slowly pulls you apart. I just sat focused on a video game, trying to ignore him. He asked me for a pad and paper, and I gave it to him, thinking nothing of it. None of us were creators then, only destroyers. Running backwards, leaving empty space in our wake, thinking that what we saw was us rushing towards oblivion. Eventually, he handed back a pen and paper, clasped my hand and said, "I'll check you sometime," leaving me to wallow in my frustration over $50. Now the next morning started one of the most glorious moments for a high school senior. The radio said that school was canceled because of too much snow and ice. Unable to go back to sleep, I walked a half mile down the road to the post office and back smoking a joint. When I got home, to warm myself up, I took a couple shots of Hennessy. Mind you, this is long before rappers made Hennessy all popular and cool. This is back when it was the only thing I could steal from my parents' liquor cabinet and not get caught. So anyway, a few shots of Hennessy, waiting for my friend Russ to come by and figure out how to stay at a sobriety site for the day. When he showed up, he was really freaked out, explaining that he just found out that earlier that morning, somebody had killed themselves in the park across the street. The park I had just walked past, twice. we had to know more, so we started calling around, and I don't remember the exact progression now, but we started picking up small details like fragmented puzzle pieces ground up in a small town rumor mill. He was wearing a starter jacket. He had glasses. We thought it was Joe. So we called Joe's house, and his father, a volunteer firefighter, answered the phone and told us, no, it's okay, Joe's fine, sleeping in bed, but he didn't know what happened. It was Lyness. The rest of that day's memories are a lot hazier than the rest around that time. I know I finished a bottle of Hennessy. I know a lot of people came to my house. I know I blacked out. It's strange though, because I still have these little crystal clear snippets of memories. Like a really intense lightning storm in the really early hours of the morning, just a quick flash in the horizon. A flash. I'm stumbling across the street into the park with a bunch of people looking down and wondering why my shoes weren't tied. A flash. Sitting in the pavilion, looking up at the rafters where the noose had already been removed, but the marks lingered behind like a burnt memory. A flash. Me repeatedly stumbling up this gentle slope of ice and hearing people laugh at me. It's the only time I heard people laugh that day. Flash. My father standing over me. Are you drunk? Passed out in his bed with my mother's pink bathrobe draped over me. Uh-huh, was all I could respond. But I saw the look of relief on his face knowing that it was alcohol and not just my first experience with death that caused me to be in this state. The next day we all went to school, but we didn't go to class. They had this little brief counseling room set up for everybody. My mother left work early, came to school, told everybody there to come to our house afterward and she would cook dinner. When the final bell rang, I was actually dragged into the principal's office, made to wait 10 minutes in the office by myself before the principal came in, sat down, looks me in the eye and says, I understand that everybody's going to your house after school today. Are you all planning on committing a mass suicide? I laughed so hard I must have seemed insane. I got up and walked out without saying a word. That night, we had 60 people in my parents' apartment that could comfortably hold 30. It's a lot of friends and good music, and my parents cooked almost 10 pounds of spaghetti for everybody. It was incredibly therapeutic. That was until Chris walked in, pale as if he just ran into Lyness's ghost. And in a sense, he had. The day before, when Chris was at my house, or when Lyness was at my house, he was wearing Chris's jeans. Jeans he returned to him that night, with 3 pieces of paper folded up in the pocket. His suicide notes, written with my pad and my pen, less than 3 feet away from me. Jamie Kita, she took the first note. It was addressed to all the girls, and it was an apology. Said he was sorry, but he refused to go back to prison after old charges had resurfaced when he was finally getting himself back into school and on the basketball team. Chris read the second note addressed to all the guys, trying to use himself as an example for us to get our shit together and get up and get out of that town before we end up like him. The third note was addressed to his girlfriend, Shelly. She is still the only one who knows what that letter contained. I don't really have any clear memories of the wake, of the funeral, a lot of crying, a lot of drinking, a lot of hugs. But the thing that stuck with me most was the guilt. This gnawing and incessant clawing in the back of my mind that I fucked up. I did not pay attention to a friend who obviously needed me a lot more than my own petty bullshit at the time. I mean, what if I just asked him what he was writing when he was sitting next to me? What if I just looked across the street to the park on the way to or way back from the post office? Would I have even seen him and would it have even mattered? I don't know. Right before school started back up and things started to resemble normal again, my father opens my bedroom door and asks me if I'm okay. And now. He starts to close the door and puts his head back in and says, hey, listen, I know this sucks. We're still here. Life goes on. Tomorrow we get up and we keep moving, okay? And now, it's the best advice I have ever received in my life, but it took years to fully realize. That I needed to make myself more attentive in the present, to be aware if a friend ever needs me like that again. And also to start making myself be a little more comfortable with sobriety, so that I can take Lyness with me when I left that town and that park behind. Thank you.